Hey, my name's Carter, and this is how to make a spinning logo. Since making the last video, I realized most people come to this tutorial with the logo already made, so I'm just going to skip through this step. Okay, so if you're working in a software like Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator, then you can export as a vector graphic. To do this, go File, Export As, and then just make sure that the file type is saved as an SVG. If you're not using a vector-based program, then you can use just a PNG or a JPEG, and I'll show you how to convert it. All you need to do is go to this website, Convert.io. I'll put it in the description below. Just drag and drop or choose your file. And then on this two box, left click, go to image and then SVG. And then just click convert. And it should download as an SVG. Okay, so when you open up Blender, this is what it should look like. We're just gonna left click outside of this splash screen box. And then you're gonna realize we have a cube, a camera, and a light. What I'm gonna ask you to do is delete all of them. So we can click A, then X, and then delete. Now we have an empty project that's ready for us to get started. Now, click File, Import, SVG, and then go select the download that we just made. Click Import. Now you'll see it imported a bunch of different curves. In order to make it into one shape, we're gonna click A to select all, and then click Control J to make them into one shape. If it's not letting you join all the geometry, you're just gonna wanna click Shift, left click on one of the pieces, and then you should be able to join it. And now I'm gonna go up here to this top window called the outliner, double left click, and then call this logo. Now, selecting our logo again with left click, I'm gonna right click it after it's selected, and then go set origin, origin to geometry. Now, as you can see, this point doesn't look like the center of my logo, so I know something's wrong. To fix this, I'm gonna tab into edit mode by clicking tab, and then you'll see I have a bunch of points that weren't in my logo. If you have this same issue, all you have to do to fix it is click Alt-Z so that you can see through with the X-ray mode, and then left click and drag over all the pieces that don't look like they're supposed to be there. Now you're gonna click X and then vertices. Now left clicking our logo to select it again, and then right clicking, set origin, origin to geometry. Our origin is at the correct point. Once that's set, click Shift S and then go selection to cursor. This will put our logo at the center of the project. And then we're gonna wanna click RX90 to rotate our object 90 degrees on the X-axis. Now with our logo rotated, we're gonna left click it again and then go down to the data tab on our right. Click the geometry dropdown, drag out the extrude tab. I'm gonna go to about 0.1. And then if this looks funky, click Alt-Z and it will turn off our X-ray mode. Now that logo looks about right for what I'm trying to do. So the only other step is to add a little bit of bevel. To do this, we're gonna go down to the bevel tab and then left clicking depth. I'm gonna type in 0.001, enter. That actually looks a little bit small, so I'm gonna change it to 0.003. And that looks right to me. This will help with lighting later in the video. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to materials. First, left click your logo, then go down to the materials tab, left click, and then scroll up to the top where you see this SVG matte, and then we're just gonna click this minus button to remove the material slot. Now you're gonna wanna click new. So now we have a new flat material, but if we make any changes over here to the color, you'll realize we don't see any differences. To fix this, click Z and then hover over material preview. Now, when I go over to base color and left click, I can change the color of the logo. I think I'll go with kind of a dark orange. but feel free to pick your own colors. And then I'm also gonna mess with the metallic value, bringing it up, and then bringing the roughness value down a little bit. This will create like a burnt orange metal. I recommend that if you're new to Blender, you play around with all of these settings and kind of just get a feel for what the different things do. But once you're satisfied, we're gonna left click our logo again, and then right click, convert it to mesh. Snack break. All right, let's set up the camera. To do this, click Shift A, and then scroll down to Camera, left click. All right, so now with our camera added, we're just gonna left click it, click G, and then Y to move it on the Y axis. Pull it out to about there. Now, if you click 0 on a numpad, or this button right here, it'll toggle to camera view. And you can see that our camera is off center quite a bit. To fix this, left click the camera up here, and then click in, or this dropout, and then go to the item tab. Now you're going to change this X rotation to 90, change this Y rotation to 0, and change this Z rotation to 0. Now we're looking a little bit better. If you want to change the focal length of the camera, you can click the camera down here that says data. And then I'm going to bring my focal length up to, let's say 150. And now we're a little bit too zoomed in. So with the camera still selected, I'm going to move this Y location back to -15. Your numbers are likely going to be different than mine, but just play around with it and try to get the feel. Okay, my logo looks pretty centered, but if yours isn't, or you want to make some adjustments, all you have to do is left click on the logo, eyeball kind of where you want it in the middle, and then right click, set origin to 3D cursor. And the 3D cursor is this little point right here at the center of the project. Okay, now my favorite part, lighting. Before we get started lighting, it's important that we switch to rendered view, because this will give us a more accurate display of what it's going to look like in the end. To do this, click Z and then hover over rendered. Now you'll see that our logo's kind of grayed out. We're going to want to take it all the way to black. To do this, go over to the right tab and click on the World Properties tab. And then left click this color and change it to black. Now you should be able to see anything. Next, if you use your middle mouse button, we can rotate back into our viewport view, click Shift A, and then scroll down to Light, Point, and left click. And then if you go over to your data properties with the light bulb, click on the Power tab and change this to 1000 watts. Now we still can't see anything, but if you click G, Y, and then move it behind the object, our light will appear. This is a pretty harsh focused light, so let's turn up the radius to, let's say 5.5. Now you don't need to do this, but if I toggle back into camera view, you'll see that our logo is now backlit. Back in viewport mode, I'm going to click Shift A and then add another point light. And this time I'm going to use G, Y to bring it in front of the logo. And then I'm going to use G, Z to move it up, and then G, X to move it to the right. Now I'm going to increase the power of this one to about 500 watts. And then increase the radius to about 1. And I might even turn the watts down. Now I'm going to left click this light, and then with Shift D, duplicate it, and then clicking X, move it over to the left side of the logo, and then G, Z down to the bottom left. And you can continue using these tools, G, X, and G, Z, to play around with it until the lights are in a position that you like. I'm going to move this light down a little bit so that it covers both sides of the O and K, and maybe adjust a little bit of the radius on this bottom one. This stage is where you can have the most fun though. I would recommend checking out all of the different other types of lights like sun, spot, and area, and playing with all of the settings, and even changing the color of the lights if you'd like. Okay, almost done. Before we get started animating, let's limit the amount of frames to 150. To do this, go down to the bottom where it says end, left click and type in 150. Now you'll see our timeline shrunk. Now you're gonna left click on the logo, click in, and then on the item tab under transform and rotation, you're gonna click I while hovering over the Z rotation. That will set a keyframe, and you can tell because it's yellow, and then we have a yellow keyframe down on the timeline. Now we're gonna go to this box here and type in 150, enter. Now we're gonna go up to the Z rotation again, left click and type in 360, so a full 360 degrees, and then click enter. Now you'll see it's orange, so to confirm that, we're gonna hover over it and click I again. Now, if you click spacebar, we've got a rotating logo. If you want to make this rotation linear so that it constantly rotates, like for a Twitch stream or a website background, all you're going to want to do is make sure both points down here are selected by clicking one keyframe and then shift left clicking the other keyframe. And then while hovering over this timeline, clicking T and then going to linear. Now it'll keep the same speed as it rotates the whole time. If you want to adjust the speed, you can just stretch the keyframes out or bring the keyframes closer together, and that'll adjust your timing. Okay, before we render everything out, Blender has moved the bloom option to a compositing effect. So this next step is completely optional, but if you'd like to see how to add bloom, this is how you do it. First, you want to go to the compositing tab by clicking left click, and then rendering an image. So render image. Now you're going to want to drag this composite node out a little bit to the right, and then using Shift A, type in viewer and drop that right below the composite. Now drag this image button to the image button on the viewer, and you'll see we have our rendered image in the background. To connect these two at the same point, you can click Shift and then right click and drag to slice them. This will make it so that our viewer and our composite are affected in the same ways. Now clicking Shift A and then typing in glare, left clicking, and then dropping it on top of this white highlighted line with left click, you'll see we're starting to get some glare. I suggest playing around with these different modes because you might like how one of them looks better, but for this video, I'm going to use fog glow. So for this one, I liked a mix of 0.3, a threshold of 0.01, and a size of 8, but I would suggest playing around with these settings. And now we're ready to render. So the first thing we need to do is go to the Render Properties tab, left click Ray Tracing, and then click this drop down. I usually change this resolution to 1:1. I also click this drop down on Shadows and change this to 4, and then the steps to 12. And I also left click Volume Shadows. All of these steps can make it a little bit harder for your computer to process, but they'll make your image look a little bit better. I'm going to change our view transform to filmic, and then I'm going to change our look to medium contrast. And then I might play with the exposure a little bit. Now we can go to the Output Properties tab. I'm going to keep this same resolution, and then for output, I'm just going to select the folder where I want to export. And then click Accept. Now I'm going to change the file format to FFmpeg video, and then click the Encoding tab, and change this container to MP4. And then the output quality to perceptually lossless. Now if you're fine with having a background color like this, then you can go ahead and export. But if you'd like to export with transparency, you can change your container to QuickTime, and then your video codec to QuickTime Animation, and then select RGBA. which will keep the alpha layer in the background. But if you're using the QuickTime animation, make sure you set this keyframe interval to 1 so that you get every frame. And then all you have to do is go back to our Render Properties tab, and then under the Film dropdown, click Transparent. Now, I'll show you what the render looks like. So you have a transparent background with your logo still in place. Once you're ready to export, just click Render and Render Animation. Okay, thank you for watching. Now I have somewhere I have to be.
Here's your book.
Oh, thank you, because I love to read.
Yeah.
I'm a big reader. It's actually my reading spot.
Really?
This is where I sent you the picture yesterday. Look, imagine where the bike is.
Why did it look better in the photo?
I'm good at taking photos, I guess.
Which is 0.5.
Yeah, what can I say? So I have an idea.
What's your idea?
You know how I make videos and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'm gonna get a job this summer.
Why not?
I think I'm gonna take the summer to make 12 videos in 12 weeks.
Huh. What are they gonna be about?
Well, it's gonna be Blender tutorials, but I wanna make it a little bit more than just Blender tutorials.
Like a Maya tutorial?
More like Blender is the starting point. But I might have a few more things to say. What do you think? Would you watch it? Are you clicking?
Okay.
Are you clicking the
I'm gonna
video?
be honest, I don't think I would click on a video like that.
But would you keep watching?
Depends on how interesting it gets. And if I have an assignment due the next day, like if I'm there for the tutorial, I'm there for the tutorial.
Could you click it off?
And then I'm clicking off. I think that's okay. Yeah. I'm actually like trying to find a timestamp where the tutorial starts and ends.